The Absence of Tom Leone by F.M. Busby. Published in August 1987 in a collection of the author's stories entitled Getting Home. Read by Darrell T. Smith II for my channel, Quasar Spectra. The Absence of Tom Leone. Abris of the Hill People was soon to produce our child. As agreed at the meeting of clans, she had come to live with me during this period, one of the women who came to our lowlands. At the same time, my sister Furl and others of our own women went to the hills. It is a pleasant arrangement. Abris was a fine mate. Her voice was sweet both in speech and song. The iridescence of her skin, augmented in the child-carrying changes, were delightful. I believe that even the Terran, my friend Tom Leone, could tell that Abris was exceptional in beauty of person and activities. Certainly he always rendered her every courtesy, as he understood these matters. Leone the Terran no longer appeared monstrous to me. I knew that within the dwarfed head atop his outsized body were a mind and spirit like my own. He labored for half a year to learn to use our language with skill, although I despair that any Terran will ever fully grasp the wholeness. With Leone it was not for want of effort. So we came to be friends. Even the filaments of dead cells that grew here and there on his head and body no longer repelled me, nor the drab color of his skin, leathered at face and hands by our wind-driven dusts. But on the day we first met, the day I saved his life, I thought him a monster indeed. To say I saved the Terran's life sounds as though I had done something exceptional. It was not so. I merely repelled, by our method of projecting a deterrent feeling, one of the mindless leapers. Although no one could stand against the voracious flesh-eater or evade its swift charge, the Terran could normally have killed it with the weapon he carried. But Leone the Terran had fallen from a height and was unconscious. Had I come to that place only a short time later, the leaper would have eaten him. I would have found only bones scattered around the fed, torpid creature, which I would then have killed, accepting the temporary breach of wholeness that killing brings. But I was in time and repelled the beast instinctively. Only then did I look to its intended victim. I had not seen a Terran before, though quite a number of them are present at the settlements across the roaring straits. So I did not know what to do to help. I spread a cloth to shield him from sun and wind and dust, and sat waiting. After a time he came awake. We could not speak, of course, but knowing each other as Terran and Gelban respectively, and so not hostile, we could gesture and try to begin the exchange of words. He could walk without aid. I took him to my home, of which I have some pride. It is my own design, all roof and dust screens with no opaque walls, except, of course, for the central chamber. It was not a time for me to have a mate in residence, so I put that chamber at the disposal of Leone the Terran. Over a considerable number of days we learned to speak with each other. Others who lived at civil distances from me occasionally came to see and hear Leone also. Perhaps the most surprising thing to learn was that his activities were not entirely of his free choice. It was equally a surprise to Tom Leone, I think, to find that no Gelban does another's bidding. We, of course, do what must be done, I told him, but freely. "You really don't know then, Fame," he said to me, "what it is to agree to work for someone, to do a job and get paid for it?" I did not, and furthermore, I am not sure I understand the concept even yet. "Well, Fame, just take it that I hunt funny-looking rocks up in the mesas because when I find the right kind, somebody across the straits will take them and give me something I want in exchange. We spoke no more of it. He showed me some of the rocks. They were of the kind that show patterns of creatures long dead, some ancestral to those presently living. I was equally at a loss in trying to show Leone the wholeness, the way of seeing all that is. It is such an obvious thing, almost instinctive with us, that at first I felt he had to be pretending not to understand. But finally I recognized that Terrans have not evolved the basic concept and suggested that Leone resort to inner withdrawal to discover it for himself. Meditation? I guess you mean, he said. I've tried it, one way and another. I always seem to end up biting the back of my own neck. Since it is as impossible for a Terran to do such a thing as for a Gelban, I knew that Leone was indulging in the Terran habit of saying that which he does not mean, for some strange form of personal enjoyment that is of no injury to the listener. It seemed a sign to cease discussion of the wholeness for that time. We talked of other things. Leone had a mate on Terra, a permanent mate, though that concept is difficult to accept. She was called Margaret. He showed me a representation of her and asked me did I not think her beautiful. To him she had beauty, so I spoke as though I saw it also. He was to be separated from her for 5 Terran years, a period nearly equivalent to 3 Gelban. He wanted to be with her, and at all times, though he did not know or could not tell me if it were the time for him to produce a child. Soon, of course, it became that time for me, so that Leone could no longer reside in the central chamber of my home. I and a few friends arranged to help him build a home for his own residence, not uncivilly close to mine, but near enough for convenient interchange of meeting. I felt that Leone was shocked when my mate of that time, Inare, began to show the child, growing in the translucent pod outside the lower front of her body trunk. Your children grow outside the body before being born? Before being separated from the mother? We have so evolved, yes. Yours grow inside the body, I assume? I said. The comparative size of Gelban head and body would make that impossible for us, you must see. I see it, he said. I just don't believe it. Another instance of saying the unmeant, accompanied as usually by a lip grimace. Leone was also startled when Inare's nourishment gland began to appear and enlarge from its matrix at the center of her chest. But he did not say a great deal about it. He merely drew a picture of the Terran equivalent function, which is once redundant, and explained that these glands are present in Terran females at all times, even when not needed. I had deduced or surmised as much from the fact that Leone himself was burdened by external sex organs at a time when he could have no possible use for them. And I'm sure that he was puzzled because I and other Gelbans have no such handicap. But he did not ask, so I did not tell him. Imposing unwanted information on others is not truly civil. So time went on, and although Leone never grasped the wholeness as we know it, his speech and actions were those of one who is whole. Perhaps Terrans interact with all that is in a fashion that does not involve conscious speech levels. It may not be necessary for them to see the wholeness as directly as we do to be a true part of it. In a manner without doubt, Leone the Terran became truly my friend. You may not understand without having experienced such a thing yourself. And so, for a time, Tom Leone lived at my home when I was alone, and away in his own when it was the time for me to have a mate to reside here. It was a good time. I did not like to think of his absence, which must happen so that he could return to Terra and to, strange concept, his permanent mate. There is a Terran thought that I do not fully understand, but I think it must bear on what occurred. It is called irony. I believe it means that which is irrelevant while still causing effects. It was when Abris of the Hills was near to shedding our child and its protections. A woman preparing to shed child must have all her energies reserved for that purpose, just as must a man or woman contemplating the wholeness. And on that day I was in full contemplation atop the little hill at the side of my home, preparing to help Abris project the wholeness to our child as soon as it was free, so that its life would be whole in our Gelban fashion. As I contemplated, I watched Abris setting on the mat she had unrolled in the open space before my home. Either I had been careless or the leaper had been shell-encased and undetectable, which is a rare thing at that time of the year, but not unknown. It appeared suddenly from behind a tumble of boulders, directly in line with Abris from where I sat and over twice as far from her. Yet I knew it could reach her before I could. They are swift, swift when they wish to be. But for the moment it moved slowly. I strove to wrench myself out of contemplation, heedless of mind risk and the danger to wholeness, hoping to free enough energies to project and repel the leaper. But I had trained myself too well. My mind would not leave contemplation except in the slow, whole way it had always known. Nor could I move, save slowly and clumsily. Contemplation is an act of mind and body as well as spirit. I saw Abris look up to the leaper, and I knew she could act with mind or body no more than I. Divert her energies at child-shedding time? Impossible. She looked to me. I could not hear her saying, but I knew and whispered it back to her own knowing mind. Then she bowed her head, placed both hands on the child's protective cover, and began to sway gently back and forth, consigning herself and our child to the wholeness as she waited for the death. I followed her movements with my own. Nothing more could I do. Then LEONE the Terran appeared, coming by the low path beside the water, carrying a spray of colorful leaves and blossoms of the kinds most enjoyed by Abris. I ceased my swaying and flailed my arms to draw his attention, then pointed to the leaper. For a moment I thought all was to be well, but when LEONE reached for his weapon it was not there. He had lost the habit of carrying it in the usual peace and safety of our homes. Terrans cannot project from mind, and so I did not know what he might think to do. He dropped the spray of color and ran to Abris, faster than any Gelban, but not so fast as a leaper. The leaper still came on slowly, darting its great toothed head from side to side, as if puzzling about the two of us, who did not move, and the one who did. LEONE took one of Abris's hands in both of his. For a time he did not say or move. He shouted something to me, but I could not hear it clearly, and spread my arms wide to show the lack. He nodded and spoke to Abris, then turned to face the leaper. Directly toward the leaper he ran. It had begun its charge, but now paused. Just short of it, the Terran paused also. He clenched and raised both hands and shouted something upward. Not to me, not to Abris, not even to the leaper, but to the sky. Again I could not hear his words. Then Tom LEONE and the leaper ran toward each other and met. He had told me of a thing Terrans do which is called combat, but I had not imagined how it could be. Now I saw it. The leaper was half again as big as the Terran, but LEONE went to it as though he were the leaper and it the victim. He jumped and drove both his feet hard against its head. He caught one of its forelimbs and broke it away. At every move he gave a great wordless shout. He clambered astride its upper body and twisted its neck from behind. but that great neck was too strong. He tried to pull its jaw apart, but again the leaper's vicious strength prevailed. He lost fingers and fell to the ground. The next instant, the leaper's jaws closed on his head. Then, though my eyes still looked, my mind refused to see, until I came slowly out of contemplation and could move again. I walked down the hill. Abris was in need, so I could only look quickly at the bones and at the still form of the fed leaper. I could not kill it now and break the wholeness needed for Abris and our child, but it would not move for hours. There would be time enough. I went to Abris and stroked her gently. The time was near, and we must be at peace. "Tell me quickly," I said. "You must finish with it." "His hands that held this one of mine were cold. When you could not hear his shout, he spoke to me. 'Say to Fame, good parting, and that Leone never leaves a balance unrestored.' Then he ungrasped my hand, and with no word went to the leaper. Yes, yes, but when he shouted to the sky, could you hear his words? I heard, 'Forgive me, Margaret. God knows I love you, but you are there and they are here.' Then he met the leaper." I stroked her, here and there and over the child. There was a wholeness to Tom Leone, Abris, that I do not fully understand. Come, we must take the peace he gave us. And soon, in peace with the whole, Abris and I shed her of our child and infilled it with the wholeness. After a time, as always, Abris went with our child to the hills, to her people. I feel the pain of her going, as with any exceptional mate, but I know I will have other mates, perhaps Abris herself again, or another as nearly whole and fitting, but never will there be another Terran Tom Leone, and his absence is painful. I am here and he is not.